Hey, welcome to another episode of Nature of Sovereignty. I'm Ian Gaines, Media Director at BBB. We kind of jump straight into the conversation, so that's why we have this intro. But we have on CEO of Bitcoin Inc., David Bailey. We talk about the success at Bitcoin Conference and what's next in store for 2022. Enjoy.
The conference was awesome. The energy at the conference was like through the roof. Some of the things that came together for the conference, like almost everything was planned, but some things like, Jack Mahler's announcement at the end of the conference and him like crying on stage, you can't fake authentic stuff like that. And so the emotional roller coaster of the conference, I mean, people were cheering, crying, laughing, booing, it was like the entire emotional range of reactions that you could have. And so, from that regard, like we nailed it perfectly. We had some, let's just say, some operational challenges and hurdles that like day one, the line getting into the conference was obscene.
Oh yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
Just walking past it. I mean, we were part of the media team, so we kind of got the backdoor access. But I was like, wow, they're out in that Miami heat waiting. But it actually worked out perfectly. And the second day is much more smooth.
Yeah,
we were able to get in and out.
Yeah. So there was definitely some headaches on day one. That night, like we got into an intense multi-hour argument with the fire marshal and the chief of police. And so they like closed down the road. They did a whole bunch of stuff to change the security restrictions because the bottleneck on the line was really the security like check-in part because everybody had to be patted down or scanned with the wand. So, but overall, the event went off pretty smoothly. And we got back the survey results, and 92% of people intend on returning for Bitcoin 2022, which is just like in the events business, that's like as good as it gets, basically. So, we're now looking at this event and we're thinking like, first off, what we were blown away by is like how mainstream Bitcoin is becoming. Like there was all types of people represented at the event, billionaires, comedians, athletes, actors, porn stars, priests, Saudi sheiks, Russian oligarchs, Chinese miners. I mean, it was like the whole gamut. And so it was really cool to see this cultural fusion that I've really never seen quite anything like it before, to be honest. I mean, it's like, where else do you see, Tony Hawk sharing the stage with Money Man, like it's just like that's weird.
Yeah.
So
and Floyd Mayweather being there, right?
So like realizing that like Bitcoin's moment is here, and like this conference was huge, but that was with the border shut down. We're coming off of a pandemic. We had to shut off ticket sales. Like if we hadn't been able to keep selling tickets, if the borders were open, it would have been twice as big. And so I think for next year, we're planning like conservatively for 35,000 people, maybe 50,000. And like we want to grow this event into a cultural pilgrimage for the world to come together and celebrate freedom and sovereignty and independence. And like we want to be a little bit confrontational against the mainstream. And like we want to take this counterculture and we want to be in people's faces that like Bitcoin is now, it's here now, and hyper Bitcoinization, Bitcoin for all people, financial independence for all people, that needs to happen now. And like this is the front lines where the world can come together, this counterculture can come together and can celebrate its accomplishments and can evangelize its ideas. And like we think this can get so much bigger than what this year's event was, and we're really excited. I mean, it's I've kind of shared this story before on other podcasts, but we almost went bankrupt in 2020 during the pandemic because we had to cancel Bitcoin 2020 and we had already paid out like all the bills and everything. We were this close to dying. We had to lay off 2/3 of the company. And we basically, it's like what's the saying? Like, that which is dead can never die. Like, we basically, like, to come back from the death, we were like, okay, if we get this second chance, like, all that matters is going all in on what we believe in, so that if we go bust, at least we can wake up every morning and be like, it was worth it. And that helped us focus and divest a lot of distractions of other stuff we were doing. And so, like, we've never been more passionate and focused, and like, our whole team wakes up every day and it's like, this is exactly what we want to be doing. Like, every person who's joining our team right now, we tell them that you're going to work twice as hard at our company and you're going to make half as much money as you'd make elsewhere. And people are like, I'm in, because the mission is authentic to who we are and what needs to happen for the world. So anyway, I don't know how else to summarize this conference, but we're like juice. We're juiced.
That was a perfect summary. That was perfect. And it felt that way, right? As you were saying, like, you want to make this like the Bitcoin pilgrimage. And it almost felt like we were coming to Mecca, right? So many different people from different organizations, from different backgrounds, but they had the same like-minded understanding of Bitcoin and self-sovereignty, right? And we want to see a future that is hyper Bitcoinized, right? And so we all came together with that same mission, with that same ethos, and it was just a party, man. It was a party. Just no matter who you came in contact with, no matter who you talked to, you had the same ideas, you had the same philosophy, and we made so many contacts and just connections with people who are also like-minded. So it was a job well done and quite successful. And I can't wait for 2022. Yeah.
It didn't matter if you owned $1 of Bitcoin or $1 billion of Bitcoin. Like, we had billionaires that had bought tickets that were just walking around like normal attendees, going and visiting booths that were like Wall Street billionaires and tech billionaires. And, they're on the exact same playing field, the exact same level as like the high school kid who has $50 of Bitcoin. I mean, it was just such a cool, I don't know. It was a special moment in time, and I'm super excited for next year. I can't wait for it to get here.
Perfect. So what was the significance of you guys making it a Bitcoin only event? Because I know you really pushed that, and I know you even turned down sponsors, upward a couple of millions of dollars of different companies who wanted to be a part of it. But it's like, hey, if you're not developing a Bitcoin product or is not Bitcoin related, we don't want your money. And that's a very bold stance. So what was the significance in that?
So, as an entrepreneur, this was actually a really tough thing. And we stopped counting how many dollars at a certain point, but it was at least $10 million.
It doesn't hurt so bad.
Yeah, it was at least $10 million we turned down from people. One sponsor in particular offered us $3 million just for a speech. And it really hurt, but we said no. And, the reason why is like, it gets back to kind of just, what is the purpose and ethos that we're trying to achieve here? And like, we didn't do this event to make money. We didn't get into Bitcoin to make money. Like, it's great that number go up. It's great that you can make money. Like, thank God. But, we did this because the world needs to be free from the rent-seeking fiat system we have now. Like, this is an imperative that if humanity is going to keep advancing, we have to have a free and open form of value so that anyone anywhere in the world can collaborate together. And so that was the mission of this event. And one thing that we found is that when you bring in other protocols, the conversation switches from like, how do we make this technology we have today viable and feasible for all people? And it switches to, let's critique Bitcoin and talk about how this other protocol is better than Bitcoin in this one way. And it distracts the conversation. And so like, for us, like, we're not anti Ethereum. We're not anti anything. Like, we don't have a problem with any other cryptocurrency, but like, we think that Bitcoin is the only crypto that we have total conviction in as being able to scale for all of the world. And so there's a lot of pressing challenges that Bitcoin has, and those challenges have solutions, but they just are not easy. And so people need to put brain power towards them. And so we wanted to just create an environment where we can talk about what are the challenges in front of us with Bitcoin and how can we as a community work to solve them without people being like, well, if you just adopted this other token or this other protocol or this other fork, we could solve it that way. And then the conversation doesn't move forward. And so, the whole purpose of the event is like hyper Bitcoinization. It's not hyper Ethereumization or hyper Cardanoization. It's hyper Bitcoinization. So, there was a lot of other crypto stuff that happened in Miami. I don't think anybody had like a shortage of NFT stuff or DeFi stuff to go to. But at the conference, the focus was purely Bitcoin. And we did get some flack for it. But I think at the end of the day, once the conference was over, people dug that. Like, it made the conference much more freedom and philosophically focused than like, hey, here's the hot token of the day that went up, 100x and then crashed or whatever. Like, it's, so that's the view.
Yeah. And that's kind of the ethos that we have here at BBB, because we don't want to distract our community with the thousands of other coins and the pump and dump schemes. Because when we look at us historically, our financially too, there's many different ways that our community was taken advantage of, right? Through different predatory loans. And I'm just talking about the traditional finance, right?
Sure.
So when we're moving to this new system that's completely democratized, we're like, hey, don't get distracted by the other coins. Hey, dollar cost average, this is something that, you can pass down generationally. So we want to preach generational wealth and point our people in the best direction possible. So we definitely have the same principles. And what's beautiful about Bitcoin is that nobody owns it, right? There's no central authority. There's no central point of control. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why on Clubhouse, our following and our membership just skyrocketed, because it's actually not that hard to tell Black people that, hey, how oppressive and suppressive central authority can be. Right.
Totally.
It's not through theory. We're not theorizing as philosophers. Like, it's through lived experience and the stories that's passed down to us of how, when you talk about redlining and not being able to get, certain, loans from banks, or getting, terrible, rates when it comes to that.
Sure.
So there's always been a need and a desire to opt out of the current system that has been, has taken advantage
Totally.
of the community. And it's just to know that, hey, it's not just a Black thing, it's not just a Hispanic thing, it's for all people, right? We're all under this same oppressive system. So I thank you for allowing us to have a presence, a media presence at the conference, and it was great to sit down and talk with other people in the industry.
Well, thank you for being there, and we'd love to work with you guys on having a bigger presence next year from the Black community. I mean, like, we want to empower the most disenfranchised, and our financial system, you said it perfectly. I mean, it's set up to it as a good old boy system where those that are closest to the money make the most, and those that are furthest from the money are the ones that get fucked. I mean, that's the system. And we need to reverse that dynamic on its head. And, 100%, like, no one controls Bitcoin. Bitcoin is for everyone. And I mean, that doesn't, like, it has no judgment. Sometimes when I talk about this, I feel like we're talking about a religion or something, but like, it doesn't care your color, your race, your creed, where you're from, whether you're a US citizen or an illegal immigrant, or whether you're a billionaire or you're completely impoverished. Like, it does not care. And that's so beautiful to just have an equal playing field for all people. That's like, I mean, that's so basic, yet I don't know how our society has gone on for, hundreds of years without that. I mean, so, and, the focus on keeping it Bitcoin only, like we call, in crypto, when you buy another crypto and you lose a lot of money, we call that scamming yourself. And, part of becoming Bitcoin only is like, I've scammed myself. Like, I've lost huge sums of money investing in other tokens way back in the day. And there's a beautiful simplicity with just picking something that maybe you're not going to 100x your money in a week or in a day or whatever, but something that you can just count on to always continue to grow. And you can just have a longer term perspective of like, we don't need to overturn the world in a month. Like overturning the world in 10 years or 20 years is plenty fast enough. And so we'd rather have the thing that we have high conviction on than the thing that's way riskier that maybe is a flash in the pan.
Right, absolutely. And I think also there's a cultural aspect to it too, as well. And when you were talking about Tony Hawk coming in with the skateboard culture is another form of counterculture. How important do you think it is for Bitcoin to align itself with pop culture in general?
So I don't think Bitcoin aligns itself with anything. I think that
Mm,
pop culture
yeah.
embraces the
Mm,
Bitcoin ethos. And so like what we saw, like other than Floyd Mayweather might be an edge case, but with all
yeah.
the other athletes and rappers that were there, like we didn't pay them to come. We didn't, you know, they, they weren't trying to say like, oh, I'm going to bring my clout to your event. Instead, they're like,
Mm,
I want to be a part of the Bitcoin movement. And like that's authentic and real. Like that's powerful when Tony Hawk is like, I want to like I love the ideas of Bitcoin. You know, one of the guys that we had there that was really I think going to become a big ally of Bitcoin is Ghazi, who's the CEO of Empire.
mhm.
And like
Right.
he's new to the ecosystem, but you know, Empire is one of the biggest record distributors, you know, music rights distributors in the world, and Ghazi is Palestinian, and he can't get money home to Palestine via PayPal or bank or Venmo or Cash App or any of these other routes. He can't get money home. Bitcoin's the only way, and so like for him, he looked at this Bitcoin movement and he's like, wow, this is something that I want to fiercely be a part of because I believe in freedom for Palestine. And Bitcoin is my vehicle to allow me to pursue that effort. And so, like, regardless of what your opinions are about Palestine, it doesn't matter. It's just like
Mm,
he has his priorities in life, and Bitcoin becomes a vehicle to empower him to do something about it. And now he wants to be a part of this. And he's like, Empire has the Bitcoin community's back. Whatever the Bitcoin community needs, Empire's there. And it's like,
right.
holy cow, that's fucking badass. That is badass. And I think that when you see people like that authentically become part of a movement, it opens people's eyes up to that ecosystem in a new way. And so I think in terms of evangelizing and spreading Bitcoin quickly, it helps to have these pop cultural icons be a part of the movement, but only if they're a part of it in an authentic and real way.
I like how you said that, culture comes to Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't come to culture, right? It finds its way to Bitcoin. And that's how we all got here.
Right.
It's just like the great gravitational pull that Bitcoin has.
We call it a black hole. It's the black hole of value. So it just sucks everybody in.
That's awesome. Um, did you ever think that, from the beginning that Bitcoin will ever get this big, or you will ever have an event that would reach such a global level? Did you ever think it would get to this point?
So definitely not on an event because I didn't even know we'd be doing events. But when I first got into Bitcoin, I did think it would get this big. I thought it would get bigger, and I think it is going to get bigger. And the you mentioned earlier like predatory lending. So part of what opened my eyes to Bitcoin, not only was I into Austrian economics, which is kind of free market based capitalism, but I worked at a microfinance company that did micro lending internationally and was trying to basically overturn the payday lending model into something that was more financially inclusive of a broader swath of people. And that experience opened my eyes to how broken the financial system is for the vast majority of the world. Like, as bad as it is in the United States, as exploitative as a payday loan is in the United States, it's worse internationally. Like, you just don't have anything, and it's like you're struggling. You're having to this business I was working at, they were writing $300 loans to farmers because if they could put in an irrigation system into their farm, their salary would go up 10x. And they just needed $300 to get the basic materials so that they could 10x their salary. And like, you know, I mean, there's many, many billions of people that are in situations like that. You know, half the planet does not have a bank account, and banking has been around for 500 years. You know, more people have cell phones, and cell phones have only been around for 20 years. So, you know, to me, it's like there has to be a financial system and a monetary system that all people can be a part of. And I think the internet is the most powerful technology that we've had really maybe in maybe 500 years or something that's come out since the printing press, the internet. And it's like, if you right now, if you don't have a bank account, if you don't have a credit card, you are shut out to commerce on the internet. And like, I just don't think that that's a viable way for humanity to move forward. So the world needs an open system. And when I saw Bitcoin, you know, I first thought it was a scam. So I had like a list of reasons why it couldn't work. But as I did my due diligence, I'm like, wow, these things in theory could, there are good arguments for why these things are not going to be killer issues. And the world has to have a system like this. So dude, this is worth fighting for. Like, you know, like if there's even a hope and a dream that this is possible, then we need to pile in everything we can, because this is the only way out for billions of people around the planet. You know, a shocking number, there is 2 billion people that make less than $1 a day in the planet. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, when you think about that, in America, you take like the lowest income bracket, like minimum wage, let's say it's $7. All right. That's for 1 hour of labor in America.
For an hour. Yeah.
For an hour, you could get 7 people to work full time for you elsewhere. It's like, holy cow, that's so messed up. So yeah, I mean, so I did see Bitcoin becoming this big, and I think it's going to get much, much, much bigger. I think that we're not even 1% of the way to Bitcoin's potential. I don't even think we're 0.1% of the way to Bitcoin's potential. And I think that in the next 10 years, Bitcoin is going to grow 1,000x bigger than it is right now, and we'll still have not reached Bitcoin's max potential.
I'm not sure if you heard like the CFA franc. What that is, Alex Gladstein, he wrote a great piece on that, and I'm talking to a couple of community leaders.
We published at Bitcoin Magazine. Yeah,
of course. another alley-oop right there for the squad. But yeah, Fode and Farida, talking to both of them, and I had no idea that 60% of the treasury reserves from former like French colonies is held in French central banks. So
what a scam.
And they don't have autonomy over their own money, right? And they don't have any transparency. Like 60% is just held in the French central bank, and they can use it how they will, right? And I'm like, okay, is this a free sovereign nation, or is this colonization 2.0? So when we look at Bitcoin, it's like the money of decolonization. That's the mindset that I look through. That's my particular lens, because you know they are beholden to other nations' policies that are thousands of miles away. How can that still stand in 2021? How can that still exist? You know,
dude, it's because the powers that be were never defeated. They strategically retreated from the things that didn't matter, so that they could maintain control over the only thing that does matter, which is the money. And dude, I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, it's just disgusting. And you know, think about how exploitative a predatory loan is. Imagine when your entire monetary system that you live in is inflating at a rate faster than a predatory loan. So it's not just those that have taken out the loans that are being affected. It's literally every person who lives in the country is being inflated away their purchasing power at 300% per year rates. You know, I mean, Lebanon right now, I think I just saw the inflation rate in Lebanon is 120% annually. So how do you get your way out of that? It's just slavery. I mean, that's what it is. It's just like you've taken away the borders, and you've just made it where, oh, you can live wherever you want in this geographical area, but we're going to steal your wealth at 110% rate per year. I mean, that's just a way to impoverishment. That's it.
Right. And this, Robert Breedlove talking about, stealing time, right? All that sweat equity, those hours spent, working, and just to have that diluted away, because of some person's monetary policy and that they want to, increase the monetary issuance, right, of that country. And it's just like, well, the people who are working day to day, they're just have enough money just to feed themselves that day and their family, and that's being inflated away. So what do they have? Like they don't have any savings, and they can't build for a reasonable and comfortable future. So it's what you guys doing at Bitcoin Inc. I love that you call it Bitcoin Inc. because when I look, I'm like, okay, are you the CEO of Bitcoin? Like this is very good marketing right there. It's the head honcho of Bitcoin. So you definitely did it right. But what you guys are doing and tackling different aspects of Bitcoin is great. You have the cultural, you have the technical, the social, and I think that that's what's needed to get people onboarded to this system. And the more people that I talk to, like my friends, they keep on asking, like, what's really up about this Bitcoin thing? And for me, it's like, it's not like the money is great. Okay, that's cool. Hey, everybody, hey, I'll have my Louis Vuitton slippers on and kicking back. That's all great. That's all Gucci. But like I look at it more as a humanitarian effort, right? This is really humanitarian because people who work hard and have an honest day's work, they should reap that benefit, right? And not have a few people in privileged positions, be able to inflate that away. So David, you're killing it, and honestly, I'm ready for 2022. So you send me the details because I'll be there. I'll be first in line, and we definitely have to collaborate and do it big.
Dude, we are all in. We are all in. All of the money at our company is all in Bitcoin. All of the people at our company get paid in Bitcoin. All of the people at our company are here for one reason, and we are going to stay all in until we have 100% adoption of Bitcoin, 100% penetration of Bitcoin, and all people have access to financial resources and tools, or we're going to go bust trying. Like that's where we're at. So thank you for being a part of the movement, and thank you for, dude, everything that you've done. I mean, you've opened up Bitcoin to a massive swath of people. And so it's fucking awesome to see this decentralized effort where everyone's pulling their weight to try to make Bitcoin achieve its fullest potential. So kudos to you, man.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.